Hey guys, Travis with Everglades. Today we're going to talk all about skid steer grapples. Stick around. Did you know about half the time I price a grapple, a guy will tell me, man, I seen them for half that price online. Well, that is true, sir. But let's take the time today to talk about what you get and what you don't get when you buy it for half that price online. All right, let's get into it. First of all, skid steer grapples are a pretty broad topic. Grapples are made for a lot of different equipment with skid steer couplers. For example, if you put a grapple on, say, a compact tractor, that grapple is going to be of a lighter build than one you would run on a skid steer, because a tractor weighs a lot less than a skid steer does. It's also capable of exerting a lot less force than a skid steer is, right? So if you're just using a compact tractor around your property to move some sticks and some brush and whatnot, you probably don't need a grapple that's overbuilt, reinforced with the highest quality steel, right? Because you're not going to be working it that hard. A skid steer, especially a compact track loader, weighs a lot more. It's also capable of exerting a lot more force than a compact tractor does. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's think about it. Now, this John Deere 333P I've got behind me, it weighs 12,000 pounds. It's got 108 horsepower. It's got some serious hydraulic force behind it. If you put a lower quality grapple on here, this machine is capable of folding that thing up like a cheap suitcase, right? Now, let's talk about some of the features that makes a grapple more expensive or less expensive. So starting up here where we connect into the machine, these are just standard 1/2-inch hydraulic couplers. But one of the things about the John Deere grapples is they come standard with 90-degree fittings. What do I mean by that? So if you take a look at this fitting, you can see it's actually a 90-degree fitting. It's not just straight on here. So right now you're scratching your head and you say, well, so what, Trav? Well, I'll tell you what. You want the 90-degree fittings. That way you don't potentially hit your fittings whenever you open your grapple, right? If you had just straight fittings on here, there would be a risk of, if you had the grapple tilted up more, the grapple open, you could potentially damage your fittings, right? So we got standard 90-degree fittings right here. Let's follow it down a little bit. We've also got these Cardura sleeves that protect your line. Let's follow it down a little bit more. Here we see we have a hose management system right here. This hook will help you manage your slack. Further up the hoses, you have a slack management bracket right here. So what you're able to do is you can loosen that grapple, you can retract in hose that you don't need, and then tighten it back down. What that does is that lets you have just the right amount of hose that you need. So for example, if you're loading a dump truck with this grapple, you want, say, a little bit more slack. Or if you have a bigger machine like this, right? Now, what if you're running it with, say, like a smaller machine, like a 325? Maybe you don't want all that extra slack. If you have too much slack here, you could potentially run the risk of catching your slack on your track. Slack on track is whack. Back into the grapple. So talking about these sleeves, again, you got your line protection right there. Additionally, we have more line protection on the back here. Now this whole frame protects your fittings and lines that run to the other side of your cylinders, right? A lot of grapples don't have that extra bit of protection there. Why? Because it's cheaper. You don't need to pay for that extra steel to protect those lines and those fittings. Additionally, kind of a nice thing, as you can see, they have this groove, these steps right here, to help you get in and out of the machine a little bit easier. Again, that's a little thing, but it's something if you're getting in and out of this machine a lot, like let's say you got to get out, run a chainsaw for a minute, get back in. What if this is wet? What if it's raining outside, okay? That's going to make more of a difference having that extra bit of traction there, right? Because it's, again, a lot of guys, unfortunately, can hurt themselves getting in and out of their machines every day. So just a little thing to keep in mind. Now let's follow to the actual grapple part itself. Now, I'm not gonna sit here, everybody knows what steel is, everybody knows what iron is. I'm not gonna sit here spending all afternoon talking about that. It's hot and there's sun, and anyway. What we are gonna see here is we have this thick steel right here protecting your cylinders. Now that's a big deal, and that's one way that a cheaper grapple can save some money, is by either not putting a cylinder guard here or by putting, say, a lighter duty cylinder guard here. And if you damage a hydraulic cylinder, as a lot of y'all know, that can get real expensive real fast. The other thing, and again, it seems like a little thing, but if you look at where they put the grease zerks, they're in easy to access locations and they're not extremely difficult to grease. So what do I mean by that? Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. If you put a grease zerk like on top of a cylinder, sometimes it can be very difficult to force all that grease in there. Here you've got grease zerks in an easy to get to location that's easy to grease. Now, let's follow this around down to the business end of the grapple. So you can see already, look at this thick steel down here, right? We have this whole crossbar that's welded across here, and you can see the amount of steel that's in this grapple, right? The amount of tines you have running across there. You have a substantial amount of steel right there, and steel costs money. So this bar down here does two things. Number one, it's gonna help add extra strength and rigidity to your tines down here. So whenever you go to start prying up stumps and things like that, it's gonna keep all your tines nice and tight together, and you're not gonna be able to get as much leverage on one and pop it out or bend it, right? Also, whenever you're root raking and kind of finish grading your area that you just cleared, you're able to leave a little bit better of a finish right there on the bottom, because it almost forms like a cutting edge of a bucket. So again, this grapple here is just one of our styles. We also have a root rake style grapple if you prefer that as well. Now, I represent a lot of good people at Everglades Equipment. We would love to have the opportunity to earn your business. This grapple has a skid steer style coupler on it, and it will fit any skid steer on the market. So give us a shout on your next one. So what I'm trying to tell you is, you can buy a high quality grapple like this, or you can buy something that looks like a beer can with two salad forks sticking out of it. The choice is yours.